So you're going to cut 2 tablespoons, which there's lines on the butter, so you need 2 of those squares. We're gonna put it in a pan and we're gonna melt it. So I have my butter that's melting in my pan, and it won't take too long to melt, so we just need it to be liquid, and then we're gonna dump it into a bowl. And then inside the bowl, we're also gonna put our cinnamon and our sugar. So we're gonna mix that up. So while the butter's melting, if you wanna measure out, you need a 1/4 of a cup of sugar and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm gonna dump that in with my cinnamon and my sugar. I'm gonna grab another spatula so I can scrape it all in there. Okay, so my butter and my sugar and my cinnamon are all together in my bowl. And I'm gonna take my spoon. You can see it kind of got darker in there. You're gonna mix it all up. So I'm gonna use 4 more of my tortillas, okay? And then I have a circle cookie cutter. So I have my circle cookie cutter and my tortillas. This is gonna be the next step. You can also use, if you don't have a cookie cutter, you can use the top of a cup and you can just push it on there and you can use that to cut it if you want to use the top of a cup. Or you can use the bottom of a bowl. Anything that has a circle on it, you can use to cut your tortillas. So once you're done with that, we're gonna need a muffin pan. And we're gonna keep it upside down. So we want the holes on the bottom. Our cut out tortillas and our cinnamon, sugar, and butter is we're gonna put these little circles inside of our bowl with our cinnamon, sugar, and our butter. And we're gonna make sure our tortillas have it all over the outside, okay? So you're gonna put in one at a time and you're gonna kind of mix it around in there to make sure it has cinnamon, sugar, and butter all over the outside. And you don't want it to get too clumpy because then it won't cook right in the oven. So if you need to take some off. But this is what it's gonna look like on one side, and then you're gonna do the other side the same way. Okay, so you don't want too much on there. We're gonna put them in the oven for about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna put mine in and then I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. If your oven isn't ready, that's okay. You can wait just a little bit to put yours into. So they don't take super long because it's at a really high temperature. So I'm gonna set my timer for 5 minutes. And we'll check them there. If we need to go longer, we can. Okay. So the next step, since we have those in the oven, is we're going to peel our apples. So I got my apples here and I have my peeler. We're gonna peel them all off. And I'm gonna just put my peels into one bowl, okay? I'm gonna cut up these apples. I wanna make sure that they don't have the core in them. So I'm gonna cut the outsides off. Okay, and then so I have a leftover core. I'm gonna put that in with my peels. And I'll put that in my compost bucket. Okay, so we're gonna cut them up into pieces about this big. You see my pieces? So you can see my tacos here. They're not quite as crunchy as we would want them to be, so I'm gonna put mine in for another 3 minutes. Next step, once you have all your apples cut up, I'm just gonna show you and then I'll wait for you, okay? So I put them in the same pan, or in the same bowl as the cinnamon, the sugar, and the butter that we use for the tortillas. Because that's the same thing that's gonna go in here to go on top of the apples, so I'm gonna just mix in a little bit more of it. So we need, let's see, we need 2 teaspoons of cinnamon extra on top of the apples. So I can say it again in a little bit too. So 2 teaspoons of that, and then we do need some lemon juice on it. So I'm just gonna squeeze a whole bunch on there. It does call for, how much lemon juice? It calls for 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. You can measure it if you'd like. This just helps keep the apples nice and fresh. Okay. And I'm just gonna mix all that up. Okay. So we're gonna melt our butter and then we're gonna add our apples. And you wanna get all that extra juice out of the bottom of your bowl too, because that'll get it nice and gooey. So I'm gonna take one of my little tacos. You can see that it stayed in its shape after it's cooled. So if I hold on to one side, it stays in its shape. So we made a little taco, a cinnamon sugar taco shell, okay? So I'm gonna put that on my plate, and I'm gonna very carefully scoop a little bit of the apple into my taco with the caramel on it. I love pull-ups, so I'm gonna take a big scoop. We're gonna put it right on top.